All right. Well, I think that we've given 2 minutes. 2 minutes should be good enough time. So we won't waste any more. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Excited to talk to you all about practical AI and enabling AI fluency. So welcome. My name is Zach Schemenaur. Like I said, I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I am on the team here at Spekit as a revenue enablement architect. I'm responsible for navigating all of the enablement needs within our team here at Spekit. So the product that we are selling, the product that we're using internally, and how we have all of our enablement content structured to keep folks up to date on all the things that they need to be able to do their jobs really, really well. I have worked in go-to-market teams for the last 10, 15 years or so. I've worked inside and out of SaaS. I've worked online. I've worked in person. I've been on sales teams, marketing teams. I've worked on customer service teams and revenue operations. So I've worked in all of those spaces as an individual contributor and a leader responsible for those teams. And today is my 45th day at Spekit. So I'm very new here, but I hope that some of the things that I've learned that I'll share with you today, you'll find helpful. And let's continue on. So of course, this has been an interesting space for me because this is the first time that I've been back to work and the second time that I've had speaking in front of an actual crowd of people in almost 2.5 years. In that time, while I'm sure that most of you have primarily been focused on your roles, I've had somewhat of a different experience and that I've had like a front row seat without distractions. And I've seen firsthand how powerful and influential generative AI is and can be. And I've seen it as it has evolved, not just watching folks get better at using it to generate like less AI suspicious LinkedIn posts. I've literally like found myself in the spot where I am here today as a direct result of it. AI was a lifeline that helped me navigate the US healthcare system to diagnose, understand, treat, and ultimately overcome advanced stage cancer. And needless to say, the 2.5 years that have come up to this point have surprisingly given me a really great amount of time to use AI. And eventually it has become a practical tool that helped me get back into my career where I found myself here at Spekit. So I'm sure that I'm not the only one. Obviously, I know that we're all seeing wild things that you're now capable of doing with the help of AI. It's, of course, seemingly everywhere. And yet we've still barely scratched the surface. With what's happened over the last few years, like it's absolutely crazy. And it does seem like the pace is just picking up and getting faster and faster and faster. And I kind of wonder, what are things going to look like in the next 6 months or the next year? Or if we've had this much advancement in the last 2 years, what is it going to look like 2 years from now? So we'll see. But it has brought me to the spot where I am a bit concerned, though, in that, like, if we have anybody that is behind the curve now, as this continues to evolve, what will this look like for them and us as that evolution continues? So staying on top of it can feel really overwhelming, but it doesn't have to. The reality is that we don't have to be experts in AI to be able to confidently adopt it, to use it safely, and to use it at scale. You just really need to level set, I think, on some of the practical knowledge. So my hope here today is that I can give you a bit of an outsider's perspective on approaching the fundamentals of AI so that you and your teams can level set together and get the most out of this incredible source. So in this session, we're going to walk through a few things. One, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the state of AI. I won't get too heavy in statistics, but I do think that they're helpful and relevant for this conversation. I will share with you some must-haves for enabling AI fluency and a 3-part framework for enabling your teams with AI and about AI. I'll give some recommendations for reinforcement that you can try to implement within your own systems or processes, whether you take on this full framework and apply it, or you use it within something else you already have. And then we'll wrap things up. So my goal here is that we walk away demystifying AI for your teams so that we're not afraid or anxious when we're navigating fluency in artificial intelligence. I want you to be able to understand that prompting is a core skill and know some ways to be able to learn that for yourself and also teach others to adopt it. We'll do some conversations around some alternative approaches to AI enablement. And then, of course, I want you to be able to have access to additional enablement resources as well that you can take away with you from there. So I'm going to pause for a second because I've talked quite a bit and I'm sure that I'm talking really, really fast. So let's take a second to do some polls. I'd love to hear kind of how everybody's experiencing these things across the board. So give me 1 second and I'm going to get here and get some polls going for you. I've just opened a poll. You should see in your view of this app, there should be a little indicator that says that a poll is here, and you can go to your polls tab. That'll open up another space on the right side of your page where you can answer the question yes or no. So for all of you that are here, how many of you are formally trained on AI, like its applications and its use cases? See some votes coming in here. 50-50. All right, we got the majority are actually coming in at no. Wait a little bit longer here. All right. Let's see what we've got here. All right, I'm going to close it. Let's see what we have. You know what? I wasn't going to share this, but let's share it. Oh, that's not the result. We'll stop sharing that. The results came in before, and we had one person who said yes, and everybody else said no. So let me get back to this question here. So the majority of you have not been formally trained on AI. Very, very, very interesting. Next question. Are you here to gather AI insights for future team enablement or for yourself? Let's get, where'd the poll go? All right, open it up. Are you here to gather AI insights for yourself and for your team, or are you here for something else? All right, not surprising. Most people are here to gather insights, which would make sense. If you've seen this, the title of this webinar, you've seen any kind of marketing materials around it, I'm sure you've seen what we're going to talk about here, and I hope that you do find what it is that you came here to look for. Interesting. So we're all here for that. All right. Now, how many of you have been learning about AI just as you go? If you haven't been learning about it from training and you're wanting to learn about this, is this something that you've taken the time to really dig into, or are you just kind of figuring out as you roll? Let's make sure this is going. Let's share that post. There we go. Now you should be able to see it. We learn about AI as we go. All right. Yes. Yes, we're here. Not surprising. So the majority of us have not been enabled on AI in a formal capacity. We're wanting to learn a lot about it, but we're also learning about it as we keep rolling, which makes sense. I think it's one of those things where as the technology is evolving so quickly, it's hard to even really create much training on this, because as soon as you create it, within a couple months or a couple weeks, that actually is changing with new functionality. So in this, I hope that you walk away with something that is able to be adaptable and adjust as you roll and as we move forward, and you can apply it in a little bit of a different way. So, all right, let's see here. Where am I at here? We are talking about more statistics. This is where it's been interesting. So that's been our experience. But there have been quite a bit of polls and other surveys that have gone out in a number of different places where we're seeing the results of how other people that are outside this webinar, how they are adopting or how they are seeing AI. And when I was going through that and just kind of preparing myself to understand this space, I found a couple things that stood out to be really, really interesting. And this was one that came up to me to be very, very specific, that 70% of Gen Z are reporting that they are using AI, and more than half of them are trusting the technology to make more informed decisions. which seems really, really great. We've got this new technology. We've got a large group of people that are adopting that, which means that we should be using it really well, right? But 68% of non-users are Gen X or baby boomers. So while we have one group of people that are using it and they are adopting it and they trust it to make decisions, simultaneously, we have a large portion of our teams who seem to be trailing behind. People either find themselves in a spot where they're really, really excited to use it, or they're absolutely terrified. And I guess the question that I've been asking myself, and I'm not going to put it up in a poll, but I would like for you to think about it. Like, is there risk in this disparity between folks that really are eager to use it and want to use it, and people that aren't using it and are afraid to use it? I think that there is risk in that disparity, and I think that's something that we need to be conscious of. So how about this though? 90% of employees are using personal chatbot accounts for daily tasks, often without approval from IT, while only 40% of companies actually are using official LLM subscriptions. So we have usage that is really, really, really high, but most folks are navigating this frontier like we just found in this poll before. They're figuring this out on their own. And what I think is something to point out here is that if we don't equip our teams effectively and efficiently, we risk this space where folks are shadow learning, which can result in inconsistent and potentially unsafe usage, which should be concerning to all of us, not just for our businesses, not just for the information that we're carrying around for our customers, but really for the work that we are putting together for ourselves and what we're putting out in front of people. So if we're not using it, we're not enabling people to use it internally, we're not giving the tools that they need to be able to use that effectively internally, they're going to find ways to use this externally. And that's something that's really, really difficult to monitor. And if we're at all interested in revenue operations and the results of your teams and their effectiveness, this is adding a layer of complexity that's likely to throw off a lot of your performance metrics. This would lead us to want to try to correct that. So last stat here. I'll try, I promise you, this won't be death by a bunch of stats. But 70% of non-users have said that they would use generative AI if they knew more about the technology, but more than a third of those teams list that insufficient employee training on how to use AI is a huge roadblock for adoption. So we know that folks are using it. They want to be using it more, and they want to be using it within their work, but they're stuck. And I think that we can help with that. So if I can get this thing, oh, here we go. My slides have frozen up here. Give me 1 second. Let's see if we can get that to refresh. All right. Sorry, my whole page just froze up here, but we got it back up. So ultimately, where are we then with those statistics? Where are we with regard to the state of AI? First thing is that teams are learning and implementing AI regardless of our involvement. If we're guiding them or not, they're still using it. The second thing is AI fluency is a really broad spectrum. Like I said, some folks are really eager to adopt it. They're right on top of it. They're staying in line with what the latest news and information is. And other folks are completely staying away from it because they're afraid of it and they don't know how to use it. And that can bring along risk and quite a bit of uncertainty. And the third takeaway that I have from those statistics and the conversation around it is that workers are seeing the potential of AI, but employers aren't providing training to help them adopt it. So I think that this is a space where we can address all of that. So let's talk about it. Let's do one last thing before we move forward. This is going to be the last poll that we jump into. Last two questions. How many people here have rolled out formal enablement to your teams? Although you haven't been trained on it, how many of you have rolled something out in some capacity for your teams to be able to understand and effectively use AI? I've added another poll in here. Let's see what these results look like. All right. Early in, we're about 50-50. Oh, that was a big switch. All right, so the majority of you have rolled out enablement for your teams. That's fantastic. That's great. All right. It's still sticking that way. We're at 6-3 right now. It's good. The majority, the answer is yes. So let's close this poll. For those of you that have rolled out enablement to your teams? Got either one of these options for you. Do you feel like the training that you put in front of your teams was enough? Or if you were given the opportunity, would you do it again? Give folks a second to respond. Was your training enough? You need to do it again. I won't give you any spoilers, but I have an answer to this myself. And if I've got anyone from my team on this, I think they probably would know the answer to this question. So we'll get to it. All right, what about 50-50? 50-50. Training's enough. Might need to do it again. Okay, well, great. If you've done it before and you've loved it, that's fantastic. Maybe you're going to walk away here with something that you can apply, and it might make you rethink that and go, you know what? There might be something else that we want to bring to the table. And for those of you that want to do it again, maybe this can be something that you can use for your team, so you don't have to start from scratch, and you can get something else in front of your team. All right, let's close this poll, and let's get back to my slides so I can see exactly where we're going. All right. So regardless of where you are in your journey to confidently understand AI, it's easy to get caught up in the latest advancement or the hype and underestimate the need for developing the foundational elements of artificial intelligence first. So it's not about learning and teaching expert level AI practices. It's about developing a baseline so that your teams can confidently and safely engage and experiment and validate. And how we structure team learning around it will ultimately shape our success. So let's talk about what enabling AI fluency can actually look like. One thing that I was tasked with when I first joined the team here at Spekit was to help the team get to the next level of their use of AI. For the team here, there's a little bit of a meta situation where our reps are not only using it personally and being confronted with that as like a need to increase their own personal adoption of AI tools. They're also using it and discussing it within our product as within Spekit, we have AI embedded within it. And they're talking to other people who have AI in all of their technology and within their businesses. So really, like, I was confronted with the question of where do I even start? And while I was navigating that, I found myself like in the onboarding process, trying to understand the company and my team and the product and the market and the industry while trying to simultaneously prepare enablement support on this topic. And I got really lucky because I got a copy of a book that was written by our CEO and founder, Melanie. And she shared in this book a pro tip for getting reps better at retrieving answers from AI. And that kind of turned into this space for me of these are like AI training must-haves. I literally took that pro tip and said, all right, this is a criteria that I need to be able to maintain. And what you can see right here on your screen are those AI training must-haves. The first must-have is that you need to identify key steps in the sales process that will benefit from AI. The second step here is to focus on AI 101 enablement, the basics, the fundamentals, the keywords, not having to go too deep into things, but understanding really the basic things that you need to know to understand what this world of AI is about. The third step here is to encourage practice, of course, but make it fun. This can be a topic that can get a little overwhelming and you can get lost in the weeds pretty quickly with some dense information, and it can get kind of dull. So making it fun is definitely an essential here. The fourth must-have is to build a prompt library. And the fifth would be to promote ongoing adoption as we continue on. So now that you've kind of seen where this game plan is, let's try to talk about what it would look like to apply it. With that first step, let's talk about how we can make it relevant. The best way I could say this is to identify low-hanging fruit where you have use cases for AI that are familiar to you and to your team. So spend time identifying spaces where AI is in your existing environment and where AI could be used more purposefully. You can do that from looking in one of two places, in my opinion. One, you could look at your existing tech stack. So maybe you've got like an ask feature in your call intelligence tool. I know that Gong has a lot of this, where you're able to surface common objections or best performing responses. You can look in your CRM. If you've got Salesforce or HubSpot, you might be able to auto summarize deal notes or recent activity to guide your next steps. Or if you want to look at like your external sources, you can look at using AI to prep for calls by understanding information about where your customers are, how their businesses are evolving. You can scan press releases, funding announcements, or job postings to spot expansion, tech stack changes, or pain points. So the key here is really to look for spaces where AI already is, so that we're not trying to talk about it conceptually as this thing that exists elsewhere. It's something that is very, very, very much in front of us. And we then need to take that to bring us to where folks are. So maybe you need a group session. Maybe folks just need digestible bits of information along the way. So like in this kind of preparing for your AI session, with this in mind, I think that if you're able to identify how you're using it within the way that you're working, you'll be able to more clearly identify where that gap is of who's using it, who's not, who's using it well, and who's not. And you can bridge that gap between what's unfamiliar for some users and really familiar for others. It also kind of creates this space where the content that you create isn't just, like I said, conceptual. It's something that's able to be used, and it's sustainable in this environment. As it's going to continue to change, it's going to continue to evolve. So if it's rooted in the things that we do every single day, I think that is just a really, really easy way to keep things fresh. So in other words, identify these areas where you're using AI, be clear about who's using it well and who's not, and then use this to your advantage to be able to close that skill gap. Now, in my humble opinion, this is a great time to look at how you might apply this to your team. So for us at Spekit, ultimately, we broke this down and took that information of where AI currently is and the basic fundamental things that we want to cover. And we broke this down into a series of learnings over 3 sessions on AOI. We just named it AI 101. For the next little bit, I'm going to walk you through this at a high level, like what I think you'll find helpful and when you use this, and then we'll also talk about a couple different things that you might want to apply a little bit differently than what we did. And then I'm going to pull that back into the broader framework so that you can see how this all fits together. So our first session focused on the foundations of AI, and depending on your environment, this might need to adjust slightly. The concepts that we covered here, I've listed on the left. We talked about machine learning. We talked about large language models, tokens, probabilities, and parameters. Memory and context, and prompting, obviously, and fine tuning. These are some really, really dense topics, though. So I wouldn't recommend going through all of these things. I can speak from the experience. Trying to do all of these things all at once can be really overwhelming. Don't do that. Keep it narrow. Keep it down to just the concepts, and pick 5 of these, the 5 that are most related to the uses of AI that you've seen in your organization that we talked about just before. You also don't have to try to reinvent the wheel. It's really easy to get lost in like over describing or over explaining what these concepts are. And the reality is there's a lot of content that's already out there that you can use. So check out YouTube Shorts. I found a handful of YouTube Shorts that were really helpful in describing how large language models are trained and relating that to the way that we teach dogs how to go fetch a ball. You can find a lot of these YouTube Shorts to fill in a lot of these gaps, and I think that might be helpful. I'd also say that as you're working through these concepts, a thread that kind of pulls it all together is that a lot of folks come in with this idea or this feeling that AI thinks, and it doesn't. AI doesn't think, it predicts. And understanding that just basic mechanism will help people like make better sense of how all of these pieces work together. So keep it high level and consider providing some information to folks where, yes, if you've got some people that are really in depth and already have this knowledge, give them things that are digestible for them to take with them, but also create some resources that might be a little bit more in depth than maybe what you'd share with your teams, but provide the insight that maybe your newer learners would be able to understand if they want to dive deeper because they just have the interest to do that. Now, in our second session, we focused specifically and we zoomed in on this on prompting. Learning how to prompt with AI tools to achieve the goals that you want to achieve is becoming one of the most fundamental skills to develop. It's not chatting with AI. It's about being clear and asking what you want. So again, like I had on the last slide, I showed you kind of the concepts that we covered. This is also the concepts that we covered. So we talked about good prompting is like providing directions for a new teammate or a new colleague or a peer, where you need to be clear and you need specifics and you need to be actionable. If you just say, hey, go run and go do this, that's not going to be helpful. If you say, this is the task that we have to achieve. This is what you're going to need, the resources that you need to be able to achieve that, and this is the outcome that we'd like to see. That can help someone know how to navigate. Prompting with AI is very, very similar, and so teaching it in that capacity, I think, is helpful. We also talked about bad prompting versus good prompting, which I'll get to in a second. But ultimately, bad prompting is single words. Good prompting is complete sentences. And when you get into a conversation where you're deeply talking about prompting, it gives a chance for folks to better understand some other concepts that can take people off track, even without realizing it. So knowing how to prompt can help you avoid hallucinations and drifting, where you are working on one project and the generative AI that you're working with is spinning back answers that aren't necessarily relevant to what you're trying to achieve. And that might not be something that happens immediately. It happens slowly over a series of responses. But if you're aware of how AI, and generative AI in particular, is functioning, and you're conscious of the way that you're prompting and utilizing it, you should be able to see these things pop up a little bit more clearly and significantly sooner. So pro tips here: good prompting versus bad prompting encourages critical thinking. If you're focusing on spotting hallucinations, this encourages people to assess in what they're working through. And then if you add this element, like what we did here, where there's scenario-based prompting, it gives people a chance to understand that one of the most effective ways to work with artificial intelligence is to iterate. If you don't get something right the first time, that doesn't mean that it's wrong or that you did something wrong. It just means that you need to try something a little bit different. So here are the examples, or an example of one of the things that we covered here, of talking about bad prompts versus good prompts. So when you have bad prompts, we have things that are vague or assumptive and lacking direction. And the reality is that good prompts are like giving directions, like I said, to a teammate. They include context, what you're working on. They include instructions, what you want, and they include constraints. So what is the outcome that you're looking for? Is it a document with a certain length? Is there a certain tone that you want to apply, or a format that you want to be able to see that in, right? So yeah, you can see here on the left, if you're saying something simple like, write an email to a prospect I want to connect with about our products, that seems right direct if you're talking to somebody that understands. But if you are speaking to someone who doesn't have any context around that, that's not going to make sense. When you're prompting and you're looking for good prompting, write in complete sentences and be specific. Okay, now let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to cover on this. I don't think so. I think we got that there. All right. Now, of course, all of that can be informative. And I'm sure that you are all feeling, as I'm throwing this at you and saying it to you really fast, that can be really, really, really dull. It's helpful, it's informative, but it can be dull. And that's why it's important to follow the steps that we listed before. And that third step was to make it fun. If you are looking for other ways to do that, this is what you might want to try. These were two things that I considered when I was doing our enablement sessions internally. They ultimately made it on the cutting room floor. But I think this is a way to be able to bring prompting exercises into something that feels applicable and is engaging. So you can do AI Mad Libs, where you have a prompt that maybe is missing a couple things, a verb, a noun, what have you. Have your teams fill those spaces in and then see what results they get back. And if you want to make that a competition, or you want to make that something where people are able to vote on something that they like or that they don't like, what's funny, what's not funny, it's a great way to get people engaged. Or you can do like a prompt detective, where you are giving folks two different outputs of AI, of prompting, like what is the result of a prompt, and then asking folks to try to make the connection to what was the original prompt that brought them back to that. So feel free to give these a shot. If you're looking for more, this is a place where I'd recommend ask AI, what are some fun ways that I can give folks hands-on practice to be more efficient in the way that we prompt. I think I did that and it came up with 10 different responses. I think I liked 3 of them of that 10, but that's still pretty good. And there were 3 ideas that I didn't have before I got into that. So helpful for me. And if you don't want to go search for it and you just want to ask somebody, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll share with you some of the other ones that didn't make it into this presentation or into our work at Spekit. All right. So to recap real fast, that first session that we talked about was the foundations of AI and AI concepts. The second session was specific about prompting. And now we're on to the third session. And for us, we focused on something very particular. But the meat of this here is to focus on an area where you can have immediate impact. Whether that's on conversations with customers or driving adoption and connection, or using AI responsibly in the tools that you're using. Remember, we've talked about this. We've identified the areas where we're using AI, and this is an area where you can kind of pull these things back together. So the concepts that we covered were shifting market dynamics as AI's become a part of our product and a part of our competitors' product and much broader in the industry. Understanding how AI is shifting the market was really important for us. We talked about what the influence was on our own product development. And then, of course, it's impacted how our competitors are moving and how their products are evolving over time, which made space for us to talk about our competitive positioning and how we engage with customers on those topics. And then we also got back into focusing on, for us, an IT persona that has become much more relevant in this conversation than it ever really has before. So I would actually use that as a tip, maybe to something to keep in mind for everyone that's here. If you are with a company and you are selling into enterprises, this might resonate with you to focus specifically on that last concept, because what we found is that IT is back in the room, they're back in the conversation, and enabling your team to be able to have effective conversations with your IT buyer persona is important, especially considering that there's a strong possibility that they are the people that are responsible for finding where AI functionality is helpful or even critical, and they are responsible for restructuring and even trimming down their tech stack as a result. So make sure that your teams can effectively communicate with those folks specifically if you do find yourself in a spot where AI is really impacting your product or the way that you are going to market. Now, because in our case, that was really a specific example, that might not work for you. AI is embedded in our product, so we found ourselves in this kind of spot where it is in between. We have some folks that are like in our competitive space, folks that are more on the traditional element side of technology, while simultaneously we have folks that are shifting to a broader, more general purpose AI, and Spekit is right here in the middle of this. So for us, it wasn't just talking about AI to help us work smarter. We really have to understand it and its much broader impact in this environment, because it is going to continue to change. Like I said, this is for us, but for you, that might look a little bit different. If your organization has AI already embedded anywhere in your tech stack, or if you're planning to, use this third session to share how AI powers these tools, or how your organization is using them to drive performance. This is where you can bring back that element of AI that we talked about in the beginning, because they are, or it's it's what's powering all of this. It's the thing that is behind the technology that you're currently using, and closing the gap between AI as a concept and AI in your day-to-day is something that makes this not a concept, but something that's very tangible. So if you're in Gong or you use Chorus, this could be talking about how those tools are using AI for conversational intelligence or for coaching. If you're using Salesforce or HubSpot, there's plenty to do with CRM reporting and forecasting. Or if you're using other tools like Outreach and SalesLoft, you can talk about AI and how it's helping with engagement optimization, or how it's helping draft emails. And maybe you might find yourself in a spot where you'd want to focus on the unique environment that you have as a product, or the product that you're bringing into your market. So talk to your teams about what elements of AI are embedded within your tool and how that works, how it's impacting the way that your customers or the users of your platform are using AI within the tool. You can focus on your processes, maybe internally how you have AI in other parts of your business that are helping informing their peers or their coworkers, or even the information that's coming to them. Or if neither of those work well for you, you can focus on other impactful enhancements leveraging AI. So conversation mining. If you haven't done this before, someone recommended this to me a couple weeks ago, where you can take and you can export information that you have from Slack, for instance. Take that, toss it into generative AI, and say, what are the general themes that are coming across this that I might be able to focus on for enablement? Or what questions are being raised here that we would like to address? And then you can create enablement on top of that. You could also focus on knowledge reinforcement. So using AI to generate flashcards or quizzes. If you've got previous content that you've already created for your teams, or you've got blog posts, or you have marketing materials, or you have other educational materials, instead of trying to go through the process of turning that into your own knowledge reinforcement, use AI to do that and show people how that can be used effectively and safely. Now, continuing on the topic of impact here, I think this is a really good spot for us to talk about building your prompt library. So instead of letting folks run out and just applying their newfound knowledge of the basics and the foundations, or knowing how to generate or to come up with a successful prompt for them to use, don't make them do that work. Like you're likely running into things already where you found that there is a good prompt to use or a bad prompt to use. So collect those up and organize them where they're relevant. If you want to have this is a series of prompts that we can use for generating certain types of email content for customers, or here's a prompt or a series of prompts that I can use when I'm preparing for a conversation with these certain types of people, that can quickly and easily be adjusted for the certain persona or the certain competitor or the certain feature or function within your product or your tool that you're looking to be able to leverage. So the point there is don't lead people into a space where, great, you've learned about how to prompt, go do it. Go ahead and collect those prompts together. Make sure that they are clean, that they are concise, and that they're returning the results that you would like to see. I think that creates a space where people can feel safe knowing that this is a prompt that I know is approved by my organization and I can use it for the work that I'm doing. It just helps them kind of get all of that extra work out of the way because that you've done it ahead of time. Now, at this point, I wanted to show you all how we built out some prompt libraries for our team and how we put that into spaces where it's relevant, that they didn't have to go dig for a Google Doc or for a spreadsheet or a Slack channel to find those prompts. We actually use our own tool, Spekit, to be able to surface these prompts. So for us, we can go straight into ChatGPT. Spekit knows that we are in ChatGPT, and we have a sidebar, our AI sidekick, that comes over and tells us, okay, because we're on this page, this is the information that's likely going to be the most relevant for you. And it's automatically listing out the prompts or a series of prompts or collection of prompts that's going to be relevant to what they're doing. So don't just create the library, put it in a space that people can use it and that they can access it and take action with it really, really just straightforward. Now, the fifth step, I'm moving fast here, so I hope that you're keeping up. The fifth step, once you've done all of that, is to focus on reinforcement. You can do this naturally by contextualizing your enablement and doing things like this. These are some things that we've done. You can do like a weekly enablement update where you're sharing the latest trainings and updated resources and news. You can actually see in this image here on the right-hand side, that is one of our enablement updates that I sent out just a few weeks ago. Here are some things that you've missed. Here's the things that are helpful that we think are going to be helpful to you, especially when you're getting past this AI conversation, knowing where else it's fitting within their day-to-day and kind of highlighting that or bringing that up is something to reinforce that conversation or get folks thinking about the ways that is applicable to them. You can also use knowledge checks, just light little touches to make sure that the information that you've shared with them is resonating. One thing that I've just noticed is that, like, if we're not keeping up with these things, folks continue to go learn elsewhere, and that can kind of shift or shape the way that they're thinking about it. And if you're wanting folks to stay kind of in line with the way that you would like your organization to be thinking about AI usage, using this kind of contextual, direct, light touch on just confirming that they're understanding these concepts is helpful. I also recommend doing content updates. So you've created this content for AI. Like I said, the industry is moving fast. These products are changing. What you've created 3-4 months ago probably has some things that are out of date. So make sure that you're staying current so that it is not old, outdated information. It's still contextually relevant. And another just kind of fun way to make this contextualize, build it out into your Slack channels or in your Teams spaces. Create channels that are not just educational, but that can be engaging and that can be fun. So what are some funny things that you got back from AI? What are some things that worked really well or didn't work well? What did you do? Like, if there's kind of like the random things of, hey, what do you think I look like? Or tell me what you know about me. Those, some of the results that come back to that can be fun. And it's just a kind of a creative way to learn and to actually apply the way that we are like learning AI in this sense, and having it not be in a space that is so serious, but still getting to engage with our peers on that topic. Now, continuing with the reinforcement, if I can get this next slide to load here. Here we go. It's obviously important not just to keep folks engaged and to keep talking about it. It's important to validate and measure the impact of that training that you're putting in front of your teams. But because it is like, it's such a tactical skill, it's important to consider to take on an extra layer of validation and measurement to make sure that folks stay effectively engaged. I think that the traditional methods that we use for monitoring these things can be helpful, but they do lack because there are elements that you're just not going to see in your standard reporting. So adding extra layers to see what prompts folks are using, what questions are coming up, and actually helping them resolve those issues, raising the things that are successes, calling out the things that aren't working well. That creates a space where you can stay involved in the process of applying and iterating on these topics. So don't just launch it. Don't just send it out there. Don't just hope people are going to use it. Keep up with it, validate it, measure it, and find ways to be able to bring AI into your organization. Like the last recommendation I'd give, we set up Momentum, the call intelligence, to be able to listen to our calls, see where AI is coming up in conversations, and to serve that information up to me. It comes directly in Slack. What was the question? How did AI come into this conversation? And how did my reps or how did the team respond? And how did the customers that we were talking to engage with that? So I was seeing in real time, not just how the team was engaging with customers, that I can coach them through that, but how are they effectively applying the conversation around AI to their day-to-day conversations. So we have found ourselves in a spot where we designed it, right? We used our framework, our 5 stages. We built out the enablement plan and put that into a 3-part session or 3 sessions. And then we've kept up with the monitoring and the engagement of it after. Maybe the question that you're asking here is, how did this go for us? and I want to be really authentic and honest with you. So here are the lessons that I learned as I was navigating this, and the things that we learned as a team of what worked well and what didn't work well. Initially, I'd say that we learned that we had a missing anchor. We got lost in the weeds really early on because we were talking about these topics that can be really, really dense, and folks didn't really have an understanding of why this was applicable to them. Is it about how they engage with AI with their customers? Is it about understanding AI to use it for themselves? Is it a way that we're learning AI to use it internally? Because we didn't make that clear and didn't have an anchor to hold all of our sessions together, that created a little bit of confusion early on that took us, till our next session to try to resolve that. The second lesson that we learned was that we needed to really have a much longer term vision of this. We were really eager to engage the team on this topic of AI, but because we lacked that kind of longer term vision, it early on prevented us from keeping this centered long term. So I definitely recommend taking the time to think about what is your long-term vision for enabling and encouraging the continuous use of artificial intelligence in your organization. And then, to be really frank, it's just too soon to call. I told you, I started 45 days ago. We just launched this a few weeks ago. We finished our last session, I think maybe 3 weeks ago. So this is relatively new. So I don't have any direct information to throw back to you as far as the long-term ROI that we've had on the topic, but it has been a really interesting space where we've seen how folks are engaging in this effectively, and it's one of those kind of things that warms your heart, where you know that you put something in a presentation, you know that you put something in front of somebody to be able to take in some new information, and seeing them apply it in real time has been really, really wild. So I've already seen just folks having more effective conversations with customers, more effective use of AI internally, and also sharing best practices with one another of the things that they're finding that are making their lives, their jobs, their day-to-day significantly easier. So while we don't have a long scale amount of information to throw in front of you of how well it's going so far, things seem to be going really, really well, and I'm excited to see where that continues to go. Now, so this is where I would like to just take the kind of the big step back, because I threw a lot at you, and there are some takeaways that I would like for you to consider to kind of summarize and put this all together. Ultimately, the first thing is that building AI literacy is essential. It is the new digital fluency. So anchoring your learning and keeping it simple with 3 sessions: foundations, application, and action, right? We did the basics, the foundations AI 101. We talked about prompting, and then we talked about how this is going to apply further on. So anchor your learning, keep it simple. The second takeaway that I'd like for you to have from this is that it's important now. So take some time to reflect and express the reasons for why there is urgency here. We need to be smart, we need to be safe, and we need to think ahead of how we're going to be using this as things continue to evolve, or we're going to continue to be left behind. And the third thing here is that we just need to stay on top of this. So be sure to monitor after, because if we aren't continually adopting and adjusting in this space and reinforcing best practices, this gap, this fluency gap between people that are eager and excited to learn about it and people that are afraid, that will continue to widen. So I hope that you found this helpful. The 3 sessions, the 5-point framework, the things that we learned along the way, the things that we left behind and didn't involve in our own process, but you might use in yours. And I am just really interested, if you would allow me to. I'd love to hear, because I think that this is something that can apply to a broad group of people, even people that might be outside of teams like my own. So if you find yourself in a spot where you're using this, or you're engaging with this, or you're adapting it in some way, please find me on LinkedIn, share this information with me, and let me know what you're coming up to, what you're coming up against. If you need ideas, I'm happy to share that as well. So yeah, here to help you in any way that I possibly can. Now, I don't want to leave you empty-handed, though. So like I said early on, I started at Spekit 2 months ago. Literally yesterday was the end of my 2-month mark. And I mentioned to you, I found elements of this book that were really, really helpful for this specific area, but there was so much more in there that I know that I'll continue to use, and I've already folded in so much into my day-to-day. So feel free to scan this QR code and get a copy of Mel's book, Just-in-Time Enablement, that is talking about enablement strategies for the AI era. Or if you don't have a prompt library and you're looking for something to start or you're looking for something to add to it, we've got a prompt library that's here for you as well. I'll give everybody a second to be able to scan that. Or if you want to be able to get this recording later, you can have it there as well. And I'll leave you with this. If there's ever a time for it, now is it. This is the time to lean into experimentation and curiosity. Enablement's role here isn't to be an AI expert. It's to train folks to be able to adjust and adapt. They don't need to even be experts themselves. Like, we can foster environments where people can adopt AI responsibly. That's the key. So that they aren't left behind. Enablement isn't about providing all of the answers. It's about building a system to help people, including ourselves, find and apply that information on our own. So I hope this was helpful. Practical AI, enabling fluency. Like I said, if you got any questions or you need anything at all, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to address anything that you've got. With a few minutes left, you got 8 minutes left in your day that maybe you weren't expecting. I really appreciate you all coming here, and I hope to see you guys around here soon. Thanks so much.